Hi everybody, I'm Kodjoga, Bello. I'm 23 years old. I was born in Togo, but I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. Best city in North Carolina. I like that, I like that, I like that.
Yeah, the corner, conversations in the corner. Yeah, yeah, heart to heart with the people having conversation. Yeah, 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 the corner, conversation in the corner.
I sat with Bello today as he discussed about his experiences with people pleasing. Find out more in the corner, heart to heart conversations.
That's a good question. I like to say I'm not afraid what people think of me. That's what I think I like to say that. Because when I think back in my life, I feel like I'm okay with looking like the odd person out or looking crazy or doing things that are like why are you doing that in this space or in this context? But if I'm being deeper and honest with myself, I feel like at the same time, I'm afraid of people not liking me. Or at least growing up when I was younger, I felt like, you know what? Everybody has to like you. And that's what puts you in a good standing with people if people like you. So I feel like in there, deep down, like my inner child, there's a part of him who is afraid of not even what people think of you or find you to be somewhere, but do they like you? I do feel like that's something that where I am right now in life is something I'm definitely addressing, is that people don't have to like who I am, but they do have to respect you, or at least the things that you do and how you're living. And they might have really, I can't be the superhero in everybody's life. You might be the bad person, you might be the antagonist in somebody's life. I can't be the hero of everybody's life. I can't be the protagonist, is what I've grown into, is that accepting the fact that, you know what, somebody's not gonna like you, and that's fine. But you know, if you just be yourself, people can at least respect that. If you be yourself, yeah. I'm gonna answer it specific to my life with people pleasing, and honestly, I think it comes from a mixture of a little bit of our culture, our parents, and the home. What happens in the home? I'm sure we can all probably relate to like, don't act like that. You're gonna make us look. Don't act like that, or don't do this. You're gonna make me look like. You know, and it's like I personally have been raised in the way, or with parents who raised me in a way to become a people pleaser in a sense, and to like watch myself on how I look outwardly or the different environments that I'm in, so that people don't think the thing that my parents are afraid of. So I feel like that has conditioned me to, in a sense, become a people pleaser in a sense. And I feel like a lot of people can relate to that. That back when they were younger, their parents will always say, "You're gonna look crazy doing that," or "Stop doing that. You're gonna make me look like this type of parent," or "Stop doing that. You can't do that around the church folks. We're at church right now. We're in the store right now. We're doing this right now. Why are you doing that?" So it makes you almost like hyper vigilant and hyper aware of like who you are, how you're carrying yourself, and in the sense that it does oftentimes lead into like people pleasing, because it's like, okay, I don't want people to, I'm thinking back to that child that I was with my parents, and I don't want them to think that about me because my parents made it a bad thing. So I feel like culturally speaking, and then also in the household, and also like how we grew up as children, that's where it comes from. But it all falls back down to the fear of judgment and like what those people would think. They're judging you, so your parents put that fear in you at a young age, like, okay, don't do this because you're gonna think this. Boom, they're already conditioning you to grow up in this way of like, okay, you have to always mend yourself in a way that's appropriate and comfortable for other people, and which is a sense of people pleasing. I feel like people pleasing is when you rob yourself of your values for the joy or the approval or the validation for anybody else. And the key word here is value. Value, like what do you truly value as a person? If it's God, if it's family, if it's friends, and say those are your values, right? and somebody comes to you and says, hey, like, I want to do this thing, let's go do this thing, or I have this big idea, but that idea or whatever thing or activity they want to partake in, it robs one of those values, and you do it anyway, you're trying to basically please that person, but at the expense of what? One of your values. And that right there, you become a people pleaser. And if I'm being honest, yeah, I've done that many times. I've done that many times. But yeah, that's what people pleasing is for me. I think it depends. And the reason why I think it depends is, with the situation at hand, it can help. Well, there's two ways to look at it. The first way is in situations where it helps the situation, like the greater good of, whether if it's a team or a project at hand, or you just want to make somebody's day, so you have to do something. I feel like at the end of the day, you're still losing something, but it brings me to a word, and that word is compromise. And if I'm being honest, I hate to compromise. If I'm being honest, that's one thing I noticed about myself. And I feel like it's buried in a place of trauma, because my whole life, I feel people pleasing again. I've had to do things other people's way. So it's like, now that I'm my own person, I'm like, okay, nah, I'm doing it my way. I'm not going to compromise, because I felt like my whole life I've always compromised, whether it was family members, friends, other people, so that they could feel good, because I was concerned about how they would feel, their emotions, not making them upset. But in that time, like I said in the beginning, you lose something from your own self. You're going to be upset, but okay, the project's going to go well, or the person's days will. But besides that, I feel like kind of like the corporate space, getting teamwork and collaboration is about putting your differences aside so that the job can get done. And somewhere along the line, you might have to people please so that the job can get done. And in that situation, I feel like it helps. In spaces where it doesn't help is when, and where it hurts is when you're doing it strictly for the validation. Like nothing productive is getting done. You just want validation. You're doing it for somebody else to receive something and say, oh, that's great, pat on the back. That's where I feel like it hurts you. Yeah, we just need to watch ourselves on that. And I'm even saying this to myself, is like, going forward, like, yes, know what's room to compromise in, and what is the purpose behind that compromise. Is it for so somebody can like you, or somebody can validate how you feel or validate you, or is it so that something greater than yourself can get done? And if it's that latter one, then okay, let's do what we need to do so that please the things or the powers that be in the room, so that we can drive things forward. But if not, then nah. Straight up, I'm gonna be honest, my initial is yes. I'll be honest, like, yeah, I am. I'm not a confrontational type of person. And people on the outside might see me big guy, tall, like, yeah, man, you know, problems. Like, I don't even want problems, man. I don't want any problems with anybody. I'm very non-confrontational as a character. And I've always been that way since childhood. And it goes back to the original answer to my question, is like, the home that I grew up in. It's like staying silent so that you don't have to deal with emotional tension, staying silent so that you don't have to deal with somebody being angry, being sad, or being like, oh, you didn't do what I like, you're a disrespectful child, you're this. Because I want to avoid all of that, I just don't confront certain things. So by nature, I am a non-confrontational person. I also believe that as I'm growing up, I'm coming to a place where, like, I understand that confrontation is not always bad. Like, it is viewed in a negative connotation. Like, confront. Even the word, you hear the word confront, it's like, what? Confront? You think about it, it's like, yeah, man, we about to fight, we get things popping. But no, confrontation can be healthy. There's healthy confrontation, because maybe a different way for us to shape. And shout out to Chigo, because we were having a conversation even before this today, and he said shaping your perspective is the key of things. And maybe I need to shape the word confrontation to conversation. Maybe that's what needs to happen in my mind, that, look, this is a conversation for me to either lay down boundaries, talk through boundaries that have been broken, or just set boundaries together. Like, maybe it's not only mine, about me. Maybe it's a collaboration about what works for the both of us, and we're having a conversation. This doesn't mean it's a fight. So yeah. Yes, I definitely have recognized times where people are going out of their way to do something for me, to please me, to make me happy, to make sure that I'm better off. And I also understand that first of all, I'm not entitled to that. Nobody is. I'm not entitled to somebody going out their way to make me okay. Even and this is a trap. Entitlement is a trap. And I'll be honest that I feel like sometimes we have a trap that we fall into because it's like, oh, you're my family, you have to do this. So when they're doing it, you don't even think to be super grateful, or to be in a space of real gratitude that, wow, this person has sacrificed something to do something for you. So you need to understand that first so that you can actually appreciate it in a genuine way, because that's the word, genuine. And friends too. With friends, it's like we sometimes feel entitled, man, you're my bros, you're my sis. We've been through all these stuff. You're supposed to do that. No, they're not. And even business partners too. That's a very shaky place. Even in business, people are like, man, we've worked together all the time. You're supposed to like look out for me. What? I feel like it all shackles back down to love. If you love somebody, real love is sacrifice. It takes sacrifice sometimes. It takes, lowering yourself so somebody else can be lifted up. And that's like I'm kind of getting in the biblical sense right now. Like when you read the whole Corinthians excerpt, love is kind, love is patient, it is not boast. When you read these things, it's like those people who've done that for me, they've truly exemplified that, because I know that they lowered themselves so that I can feel good and so that I can be lifted up. So my prayers for those people is that God bless you for what you did for me. Honestly, like God shower blessings 10 times full for going out of your way, bending backwards so that you can make sure I'm okay. And I pray for forgiveness for any time that I've taken them for granted. And I pray that I continue to have a deeper understanding and gratitude for those folks, and to God for giving me those folks in my life, because that's what we're here for. Is like the people in your community matter, and people who are willing to bend over backwards for you, to please you, people pleasing, you should be thanking God for those people every day. That's my spill. Think back. I'm gonna go right back to the house. I'm gonna go right back to the house. It all starts in the home. And this is nothing against, I'll say this before I share, it's nothing against like my family, my parents, my siblings, because I've grown out of a place and understand that, look, it's all love, but it's understanding like these things did condition me to be a certain way and behave a certain way. When I realized I was a people pleaser is when, let's say, there was a fight in the house, something broke out, and either a sibling versus sibling, they're beefing, and there's something very like, it gets really tense. We were tough siblings back then. So, hey, that's what basically is siblings, and even sometimes the fights were between parent and child, and it's like, okay, cool. So when I realized that I was a people pleaser is that I always found myself in a place of literally working a mediator in between the two sides so that there can be reconciliation and so that there can be peace made, so we can make peace. And just trying and fighting so hard to maintain peace, I found myself having to side with this person, side with that person, say that, oh, you're right, knowing dang right, they're not right, they're wrong, what they did was messed up. Or saying, okay, mom or dad, you're right in this situation, because you want to please them. You don't want to be the bad child. You don't want to be the child who gets gets labeled as the disrespectful and the difficult one. And it's like, okay, in that case, I'm gonna side with you. Or even sometimes it's the flip side. It's like, okay, maybe they are right, and it's still like, okay, I'll take their side, but going to the other person and seeing like, okay, how can I please them enough to help drive the conversation forward? So I feel like in those times, I was becoming a people pleaser. It's like, okay, finding ways to basically please a person so that they don't label you as, okay, you're taking the other person's side. You're taking that person's side. So yeah. I am in the process of doing so. I feel like it's taking time. Obviously, it's taking a lot of self-awareness, self-reflection, like reflecting back to like, what if it's year over year reflection, or even back to some of those experiences that I had as a child in the household with my friends. And even what I'm doing now is reflecting and being like, okay, wow, where do I see myself overplaying a hand, overplaying a foot, just so that I can feel some type of way for somebody to get validation, get their approval, or like so that they don't hate me or they like me. I think I'm especially going into 2024, I feel like I'm establishing boundaries that haven't been established. I feel like I am creating spaces for conversations to happen where I feel uncomfortable. And that's probably why like I didn't have those conversations, because it was uncomfortable. But just accepting that if I want to be free, if I want to be at peace, I have to go through that place of uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable talks, so that I can have peace. And I want peace. I choose peace. I don't want wahala. I don't want problems. I like my peace. So going into this year, for the rest of my life, I feel like I move into a space where I'm not afraid to have conversations and let people know this is what it takes to operate with me, cooperate with me, so we can be in unison. And this is what I like, this is what I don't like. It's laying down those boundaries and being like, look, we're not doing this. I'm not gonna do X, Y, and Z. So that's where I'm moving towards, and I'm happy about the person I'm becoming in that sense, and overcoming people pleasing. Yep. 3 things. Okay. First one I would say is seeking validation, etc. Whatever other thing that is externally from somebody else. You're not seeking it inside of yourself or from God, or you're seeking it externally. That's the first thing. Second thing is dimming down your light for the comfortability of somebody else, which I don't think anybody should ever do. People who truly love you should be welcome and embrace your light, and shouldn't be afraid for you shining brighter and be like, oh, I'm uncomfortable around your light. No, they should let you shine. They should actually help you shine. And when your light is low, they should spark your shine more so that you can shine brighter. And the third thing is thinking or feeling like you are responsible, or better word, in control of somebody else's emotions. You're not. I feel like there's a blurry area of society now where people are like, oh, you should, accountability is you saying like, basically recognizing that what you say and do can make somebody feel some type of way. But at the end of the day, nobody has control over your emotions, somebody else's emotions. If they do, you're a slave to that person. I won't, and like they can control you, manipulate you. So I think that people pleasers, they literally, nobody has control over it. You can't control people's emotions. Nobody has control over your own emotions. You can control other people's emotions. So when you're doing your day-to-day things and expressing yourself, doing whatever it is, do it in authenticity of who you are. Don't be concerned of things that you can't control, which is somebody's emotions. Like, that's in their head. You can't control that. Come on, man. You can't. Hey. That's a great question. Gives me a chance to reflect about this experience. And honestly, my biggest takeaway, I would say, or my biggest takeaways altogether would be that stop people pleasing. Just stop. Like, stop people pleasing. I know that's cliche to say, but stop people pleasing. And to go deeper, why you should stop is because, you've got to respect who you are as a person. You have to respect your essence. You have to respect the fact that essence does things. It impacts people. It impacts the spaces that is in its own way. I feel like what makes us all special is the fact that we're different. God knows that when he created us. And so when you're trying to hide your difference, manipulate your difference so it can fit somebody else's own difference, you're disservicing yourself and other people. It's not supposed to be that way. There's a cake in this life, right? How many ways are there to cut a cake? Is what I want you to ask yourself. Your way, and people might call you, people say this like, why you cut a cake like that? That's psychopath. Like, you're a psychopath for cutting a cake like that. Because, the normal way is slicing it this way. But I challenge that we all have different ways of thinking about things. And we should cut the cake however you want to cut it. And what I'm trying to get at is be yourself. Be yourself. I'm learning that I should be myself and I shouldn't dim my light for somebody else's comfort. If somebody's uncomfortable with my light, that's an insecurity in themselves. They should go into themselves, and I'm not responsible for that. Fortunately, I'm not. I also learned that I need to keep working on being willing to have those conversations in my life, like the ones that are hard, that sometimes if I don't face what's hard, it's gonna blow up in my face later. So I should probably just have those uncomfortable conversations, confront those things, or converse with those people in those situations that make me feel uncomfortable, so that I can maintain my peace and also bring peace to the greater situation. Because oftentimes, and I'm learning it now that I'm doing this more myself, is after you have those conversations, you feel good after it. And it also like gives you a fuel to go have other conversations. It's like, hey man, that wasn't that bad, man. I finna call up this person who's been causing me wahala. We talking, we gonna have a nice little chat. Or really having a conversation with yourself. Go into your own self and start like, and that's something I learned now, is to go into my own self and think about why I do certain things. Like when it comes to people pleasing or doing this, think about why I'm doing certain things, so that once I know the why, the how I'm going to address it becomes easy. How I'm going to address it, what changes I'm going to put in place with certain habits or patterns that I do when it comes to, getting people pleasing. So once I figure that out, the why, the how becomes easy. So yeah. And I also learned, last but not least, that we all people please some way, shape, or form. And the first step is that we've acknowledged it. I feel like I'm acknowledging this conversation and just being vulnerable, looking into my past of how that's coming to be. I'm grateful for it, for this space.